What's up, guys? Get it 12 here, and whoa, Nelly. It has been way too long, hasn't it? I checked before I started recording this. It has been 8 months since I last uploaded the last Spongebob Squarepants tier lists. But they are back! The Spongebob Squarepants tier lists, season tier lists have returned! And it is quite lovely, if I do say so myself. It took me so long, a combination of life and laziness, probably more laziness really, to finally get back to doing these, but I am glad I am getting back into it because, well, for one thing, I started watching Season 6 right back before the holidays began last year, and got through about like 3/4 of it, and then I stopped watching it because of life and laziness. Not because I was actually bored of the season, mind you. It's just that. But I recently finished the rest of the season. Just finished it yesterday, really. And I've also already begun watching Season 7, so yeah. These season tier lists are in full swing again. And also, big shout out to a buddy of mine, Todd PureHeart1777. He's the one who's keeps reminding me, dude, you gotta get back to doing these. Come on, get off your lazy booty. Just get on with it. Get back to the Spongebob tier list. When's it coming out? Yeah, here you go, Todd. This is for you. You're getting your wish, of course, and glad to be granting the wish. Because I have been enjoying watching SpongeBob again. It's been too long. 8 months too long. But yep, this is Season 6 that we're talking about today. And this is considered one of the more infamous seasons of SpongeBob. People either think it's one of the worst, if not the worst, season of SpongeBob to exist. Oh boy, lying for a time. Although, y'all know me, I don't easily hate on things, so this will probably be a rather tame review of Season 6, and also a pretty mediocre one if I'm being honest, because most of these I'm just going off of a 8-month-long memory from when I last watched the majority of Season 6. Like, only the last quarter of Season 6 is fresh on the mind for me here. All the others I'm going off of like a rather hazy memory. So some of these episodes I might not describe very well, so apologies for that. But this season has quite a good number of episodes, as you can see, so we're going to be in here for the long haul. Let's go ahead and get started, as of course we have the classic tiers. Actually, I went back to look at my old SpongeBob tier list so I can remember what I called the tiers. These are number 1 for the best tier. These are number 1. We got great, we got good, we got meh, and then we got this is a load of particles. So, and also I colored all the tiers to represent SpongeBob characters. SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Plankton. Alright, so let's finally get this going. I've talked long enough. Here we go. And we're starting with a big one here, folks. This is one of the specials of Season 6, The Clash of Triton. Let me say that again. The Clash of Triton. I don't know. Because this is considered I will definitely mention there are a ton of infamous episodes of SpongeBob on this list. In this season, and this is one of them. Let's see. I guess kind of good, teetering towards meh. I know I'm already probably gonna get comments like, "What the heck? You think this is a good episode? This episode's garbage." No, I mean it's okay. Let's see. Yeah, I like it. I like the setting. I like, well, I guess I like Triton's design more than Triton himself, I think. Because he's this stereotypical teenager guy who's like, I hate you, man. Oh man, thanks for freeing me. Hey, I gotta do you a favor. I'm gonna kick you out of the car so I get revenge on my old man. Yeah, he seems to not really have much of a personality here. Just, like, his backstory is that King Triton was like, no, you can't be a nice guy. You got to destroy all mortals, which seems kind of a 180 of King Neptune's personality. He didn't seem that mean to mortals. Like, he wasn't exactly the nicest guy either, but I don't think he was ever like back in Neptune's Spatula, he wasn't the nicest guy, of course, because he kept blasting Patrick for, like, talking out of line and stuff. But he didn't seem like the kind of guy that was like, I am a god and I will show everyone that they are beneath me, that kind of thing, so that's a bit odd. And yeah, wasn't too much into the personalities of Neptune and Triton here. And the clash of Triton isn't really much of a clash, because there's not really any sort of fight between Spongebob and Triton. Actually, I might put this in meh. But it's on the upper side of meh, because I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. But I can certainly see why people don't like it as much. Also, there's a slide puzzle that even Patrick can solve. That's how you free Triton from his prison. Kind of odd. Anyway, next up, you probably can't tell this, you might not be able to read this title card very well. It's Spongicus. I'll go with great, I suppose. This is an episode that's not fresh on the mind. This is basically Plankton turning the Chumbucket into a Colosseum. Like the Roman Colosseum, and he feeds Patrick to a sea lion. I remember now. Okay, yeah. This is the... I'm gonna say this is good, because I just remember the ending. The ending's pretty boring. Like, everybody just... Like, the ending goes on for too long. Everybody does, like, a everybody laughs thing, and then they just suddenly stop laughing, and it's like, they all, like, walk away bored, and you hear the sea lion roar. I remember the ending. That's probably the thing I remember the most about it, but I'm not that much of a fan of the ending, really. But otherwise the episode's pretty good. It's got a nice little setting to it, and I'll be honest, Plankton's probably, like, out of all the side characters, maybe that's not... Well, actually, I guess he is. I guess Plankton probably is my favorite character right now in SpongeBob. Like, from where I am, he's like the one that's... From where I'm at in the series right now, I'm like only about almost a quarter of the way into season 7, and Plankton's probably my favorite character at the moment because he's the one that's most consistently written. Like, he's kind of made to be more competent in these seasons compared to... Like, it differs on whether he's a genius or if he's, like, incompetent in these episodes. But he's the one that's the most consistently funny to me. So Plankton's definitely become kind of my favorite character now. And this is another one of the Plankton episodes. But yeah, wasn't too much a fan of the ending. Anyway, here's an episode I was definitely more a fan of. Single Cell Anniversary. This is an episode that's fresh on the mind, and I'm tempted to put this in as just because of a joke. Let me think. Okay. I guess I'll put it in A for now. And great for now. I might put it in these are number 1 later. So this episode is about Plankton and Karen celebrating their anniversary. and Plankton's gotta remember it. Like, he's just not really, he's kind of like he's kind of playing the deadbeat husband role here. He's like, wait a minute, what's happening? What's this? Oh, that's what's happening. What do I do? Or something like that. But he does actually make an effort to win Karen over. But then again, kind of one of the biggest reasons he tries to win her over for her wedding anniversary is because for their wedding anniversary, Karen got the Krabby Patty secret formula to him as a gift. And I kind of like the way she did it. She like took a Krabby Patty and stuck it into the side of her head and just downloaded the formula that way. And Squidward was none the wiser too. Squidward just let that happen. Squidward's like, yeah, go ahead, have our company secret formula. Don't skin off my bones. But definitely my favorite thing about this episode was a joke that could be quite hilariously taken out of context. So the ending of the episode is about like Karen's starting to download the formula so Plankton can finally have the Krabby Patty formula. And SpongeBob is like, oh no, what have I done? I helped Plankton win Karen over and now Karen's gonna give him the formula. No, my career is ruined. And then Karen starts crying happy tears because of how much she loved Plankton's song of her. Like, Plankton basically sang her a song and danced for her. He was like, oh my Karen. It was actually really good. But she cries, and her tears get on her keyboard and she short circuits. So Plankton can't get the formula that way. And when Plankton's all distraught, SpongeBob's like, yay, I'm saved! Your wife exploded! It's one of those great out of context SpongeBob quotes. It's so good. And then the kicker is the what's it called? After Karen shuts off because she got short circuited, she reboots and there's a program activated called the Entitled Mother-in-Law program. So basically Karen's mother starts berating Plankton. It's like, why did you marry my girl? Why'd you marry my daughter, Plankton? You are not good enough for her, all that. It's a nice little ending there. It's a pretty funny episode. I think I'll, actually I will put it in number 1. Because I actually really did like it, and I especially liked it for that out of context quote. Yay, I'm saved, your wife exploded. Alright. Krusty Crushers. I'll put this in S tier. I actually like it pretty good. I'm kind of an on and off wrestling fan. But, so that kind of helps me like this episode a lot more. I do like the wrestlers that SpongeBob and Patrick go up against. They're basically going up against wrestlers as ordered by Mr. Krabs, so Mr. Krabs can win a ton of money. And like, I do remember the ending of how Mr. Krabs is like SpongeBob and Patrick do end up winning thanks to Patrick's iron butt workout, pretty much. The iron butt. Oh man, it itches. But like their prize is choose between a bunch of money, which of course Krabs is going to pick the money. It's like, we can either you can either win a bunch of money, or you can win an all-expense-paid trip to WrestleCamp. And of course, SpongeBob and Patrick pick WrestleCamp, so Mr. Krabs doesn't get the money. But there's a lot of great gags with SpongeBob and Patrick fighting the wrestlers, and the wrestlers themselves are so, like, over-the-top violent in, like, a really entertaining way. It's really good. So, yeah, I do definitely enjoy this episode quite a bit. Even if my memory of it isn't very good. I'd have more to say about it if it was more fresh on the mind, but nah. I do definitely remember one moment where one wrestler screams into the face of the other and that guy's face gets just ripped off. And he's all like, yeah! Alright, pet or piss? I feel like this is considered another infamous episode. Not to the extent of the Clash of Triton, of course, but, what to do here? I guess I'll put it in... I guess I'll put it in good. It'll probably be on the lower side of good, though. So basically, SpongeBob and Patrick find a worm and they have to take care of it. And the worm ends up having babies, so that makes it even more complicated. Actually, the mother worm runs away because of Gary. Like, the worm's in conflict with Gary, so the mother worm runs away, so SpongeBob has to take care of the babies. Probably my favorite gag of the episode is when the baby worms vomit on Squidward and he just has such a "I am so done with life" look on his face as he slams the door in SpongeBob. There is one gag that kind of bores me though. It's when like SpongeBob is just he's ringing the doorbell to Mrs. Puff's house, but he's just standing there not really doing anything. It's just like, why? That's like, it's kind of odd, off-putting. So, yeah, pet or piss? It's an okay episode. I might end up putting it in bed by the end of this, but we'll see. Giant Squidward. Jeez, I don't remember this episode very well. But of course, Squidward becomes a giant, as stated by the title. I guess I don't really remember it very well. I know he becomes giant by kelp grow. And there's a moment where Squidward inks that I don't remember. I mean, that I do remember. But kind of don't really remember how this episode ends. I do believe he gets back to normal by the end. I don't know. It's kind of a forgettable episode, I suppose. Pineapple Fever. This is when SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward are stuck in SpongeBob's house because of a big storm. And I guess that's a pretty good episode. Again, I don't really remember it too much. I do remember the ending where Squidward ends up falling down to the ground because an entire tornado has sucked up SpongeBob's house, put it at like the top of the tornado. And I do remember a funny gag where the news reporter is like, "There's a big storm coming to Bikini Bottom. Panic is not advised, although it is recommended." Yeah, I suppose it's a pretty good episode. I might put it in there later. Again, an episode I don't really remember too well. So, next up we have Patty Keeper. Whoops, I didn't want to put it there. I think I will actually put this at the top. Oh, do I want to put it at the top? I'll put it in great. I don't entirely remember how the episode ends, but I do remember a majority of the plot. Basically, SpongeBob figuring out who stole the Krabby Patty formula, and he keeps on suspecting different characters. He suspects. I'm pretty sure he suspects Squidward. He suspects Sandy. He definitely suspects Sandy. He suspects Sandy, and he suspects Gary. The Gary one is especially ridiculous. Like, you used your laser vision to blast through the formula, and Gary in the present day protests, and it's like, meow. You're right, Gary. That is ridiculous. I do like all the different scenarios of like SpongeBob explaining why this character would steal the Krabby Patty formula. I believe it was Mr. Krabs that was the culprit in the end. There's other Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob himself. I don't entirely remember how the ending goes. But I do definitely like the, I do remember liking the episode quite a bit. It was entertaining. Patty Cape is a good one. Next up we have the Slumber Party. I think I will also put this in great. Slumber Party is basically SpongeBob sneaking into Mr. Krabs' house because Pearl has invited her friends along for a slumber party, and Mr. Krabs thinks, oh no, those teenagers are gonna trash the house. I gotta get SpongeBob in there to keep an eye on things. And again, don't entirely remember how the episode ends, because this is another episode that's not fresh in the mind. But I do remember one gag where SpongeBob in drag, basically, there's a SpongeBob in drag that knocks on the door. It's like, hey girls, can I come in? Can I join the party? And they all kick her away. It's like, no, go away. And the SpongeBob in drag starts crying and then runs past the real SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs that end up driving up, and they're like, who was that? It's basically another version of the chaperone gag where SpongeBob has like a dummy. There you are, dummy, you sure come in here. I do remember SpongeBob kind of becoming something of a monster because he absorbs this, like, beer or something in the basement. And that's how he scares the girls out of the house. Because I believe the girls are watching like a scary movie on TV. Even though I don't remember the episode entirely very well, I do remember liking it. Here's one that I'm kind of not a fan of all that much. The Splinter. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in there. Yeah, Splinter. This is a quite infamous episode, and there's a very good reason why. The titular Splinter is disgusting. Like, they really make the Splinter look really painful on SpongeBob. It's not really fun to watch. It's quite nasty. However, I will say there is actually some funny... There's one funny gag in this episode where SpongeBob gets his spatula stuck in the ceiling, and he's trying to get it out while he's pretty much on the ceiling trying to pull the spatula out of the ceiling. And then he actually does get it out briefly. He's like, boy, this thing is really stuck, isn't it? And then he puts the spatula back in the ceiling to start pulling it out again. The spatula is unstuck when he's like, whoa, this thing is really stuck. And then it gets back to being stuck again. It's actually really funny. But that's the only really funny gag that this episode has, because the rest of it is just poor, unfortunate torture to SpongeBob because of his Splinter, and Squidward and Patrick just makes things worse. They just make things worse for him. Squidward keeps making SpongeBob paranoid about, oh, Mr. Krabs will be forced to send you home if he finds out about the Splinter. Then Patrick becomes Dr. Patrick again, just like in Suds in Season 1, but he's even less unhelpful this time, and he's a jerk about it, so it's not nearly as funny as entertaining as Suds in Season 1. And this time, SpongeBob actually knows that it's not a good thing. It's like, Patrick, you're not helping. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Or whatever. This is one of those moments where Patrick becomes quite a jerk. And it's not going to be the last time either. Actually, just before, as I'm recording this, the last episode I watched was A Pal for Gary, which is considered a quite infamous episode in SpongeBob, but you'll hear my thoughts on that when we get to that. But the one I'm about to watch is Yours, Mine, and Mine, and I've heard that Patrick is terrible in that episode, so I'm not really looking forward to that one. Oh boy. But to be fair, Season 7 has actually been pretty good otherwise, but I'm not looking forward to Yours, Mine, and Mine. But Season 7 for another time. This is Season 6, and the Splinter is pretty meh because I do not like the Splinter itself. I only put the Splinter in meh because of that one gag that I think is really funny. But other than that, like if it wasn't for that one gag, the Splinter would probably go in Barnacles, because I really do not like the Splinter. Like, when I mean I do not like the Splinter, I don't like the Splinter that SpongeBob gets. It is not fun. Splinters are not fun, and in SpongeBob it's no different. Here's an episode I definitely really like. Krabby Road. This is basically SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick, and Plankton in a band. I love the designs for SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward in a band. Squidward getting all buff is like cartoonishly great, and this actually has one of my favorite gags in these in this era of SpongeBob, where SpongeBob goes, "Hey Plankton, can I have a song go like this?" And then turn into one of those songs that goes. I can't do it. I can't do the sound effects. But like the sound effect as well as the facial expression for the second one, it's so good. It's so funny. It's so funny. Definitely one of my favorite gags in these recent SpongeBob episodes. Well, not even recent, because this is Season 6, and Season 6 was like 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago at this point. Whew. Time flies. But yeah, I definitely do really like Krabby Road. I love the idea of SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Plankton forming a band. And really, Plankton only forms the band so he can try to get to the formula. But it's still really good. It's a pretty fun episode. Here's an episode that's not so fun though. Truth or Square. I think I am going to put this in Barnacles because, oh boy, this episode felt like a chore. This is probably the biggest, most infamous episode to come from. Well, maybe not. There are a couple more infamous episodes that we haven't talked about yet with Season 6, but this is considered one of the biggest ones. Truth or Square is the big special of the season, like the big hour-long special that aired on TV. It was made to celebrate SpongeBob's 10th anniversary, so that's nice. What isn't so nice is how much padding this episode has. Like, it's long. There's a lot of patchy segments, and the patchy segments are just filled with a bunch of celebrity cameos that don't really amount to anything. There's like Will Ferrell's in there, Robin Williams is in there. I like those actors, but yeah, they just felt wasted here. I mean, there's several other celebrity cameos too, but the ones I definitely know are Will Ferrell and Robin Williams off the top of my head. I don't remember a whole lot of the others. Like that Scurvy song was pretty good though, but like even the actual SpongeBob episode, it felt like really long, and like it basically amounted to a bunch of like flashbacks and cutaway gags, which was like there's one montage of Mr. Krabs kicking Plankton out of the Krusty Krab because he keeps failing to get the formula, and it's basically a bunch of sports jokes. And the whole episode is in widescreen, which is really distracting. It's really distracting that this whole entire episode is in widescreen. It didn't fit my TV at all, the TV I was watching on. It just felt really, really off. But there's also a flashback of SpongeBob and Sandy getting married. Except they didn't get married because it was just a play. Which is kind of a bummer because, honestly, I do kind of ship SpongeBob and Sandy. Even though I know SpongeBob's the type of character who will never have a relationship. Like, they've even confirmed so. SpongeBob will never be in a relationship. Which is fine. It's all well and fine. That's why fanfiction is a thing. But yeah. Truth or Square definitely felt... Oh, actually, there was another thing. Like, they basically teased a bunch of things in the episode that didn't actually happen. You know, SpongeBob and Sandy getting married. Yep, that didn't actually happen. Mr. Krabs revealing the Krabby Patty secret formula. That didn't actually happen. Oh, I actually did just remember I do remember a gag. This is not a part of the Truth or Square episode. This is part of Clash of Triton. I just wanted to mention a gag I actually did like in that episode, where like the Bikini Bottomites are going, "Oh, King Neptune's gonna eat at the Krusty Krab? Oh, I'd pay good money to see that." I definitely, or maybe not pay good money to see that. I was like, I would love to watch King Neptune eat at the Krusty Krab. And Mr. Krabs is like, why on earth would I let you watch King Neptune? And then, like an imaginary Mr. Krabs in a thought bubble just hits Mr. Krabs with a hammer. It's like, idiot, you can make money off of this. That's a good gag in that episode. But yeah, Truth or Square is just kind of a bore. Really, it's a chore and a bore. This is like too distracting. It doesn't really amount to anything, and there's way too much teasing in the plot. So, yeah, not really a fan of Truth or Square. Probably my least favorite episode of the season. Do Squarepants or not do Squarepants? Oh. Yeah. Let's see. Do I say May on this one? I guess I do. Or do. No, I'd probably say Barnacles. Because, this didn't really amount that much. This was another episode that they built up quite a bit. It's like, oh no, SpongeBob, he changed his pants. He's not SpongeBob SquarePants anymore. And yeah, that's not really a big deal at all. And I honestly always forget how this episode ends. I know, like, the basic gist of it is that it's laundry day for SpongeBob, and he washes all of his SquarePants, but his SquarePants shrink in the wash, so he's like, no, I need new pants. So he gets round pants, and then he's like, hey Patrick, look, new pants. And he's like, wait, who are you? I'm SpongeBob. No, you're not. SpongeBob has SquarePants. That's stupid. That's stupid how the conflict is kicked off. It's like, wait, I'm not SpongeBob SquarePants anymore? Well, I guess I have to start a new life. So he just pretty much completely wipes his memory and like starts a new job at the Krusty Krab. And he pretty much acts like Squidward. And for the life of me, I always forget how this episode ends. Like, this episode has probably one of the most forgettable endings. I forgot about it before I watched it, and I forgot about it afterwards. Like, this episode is just so forgettable. Just kind of boring. So yeah, do Squarepants or not do Squarepants? Very much not do Squarepants. Squid's Visit. Another one I'll probably put in there. I don't know why SpongeBob has to be so creepy to Squidward in this episode. Basically, SpongeBob wants Squidward to come over for a visit. So in order for him to do that, he steals Squidward's vacuum cleaner. So when Squidward goes to get his vacuum cleaner back, he sees that SpongeBob has renovated his entire house to look like Squidward, down to every little signature, from getting like a pillow that his getting a pillow that Squidward's mom made for Squidward, right down to the signature on the pillow, getting like a chip in the paint from when he moved in. Like, SpongeBob's really creepy in this episode. But he does end up actually, like, he does do a good thing for Squidward. Squidward ends up losing his real house because he left a casserole in the oven. So his house gets burned down and destroyed, and so he does end up sleeping in SpongeBob's Squidward house. So while SpongeBob sleeps outside where Squidward's old house used to be. So that's a nice little gesture there. But I'm not really too into SpongeBob being all creepy. There's a moment where he's like, "Oh, I didn't steal your vacuum, silly. I borrowed it." And Squidward's like, "Are you done cleaning up that dingy hole you call home?" And SpongeBob says, "You won't even recognize the place, Squidward." And he starts like breathing into the phone for some reason. This is one of those creepy SpongeBob episodes. It's like, I don't know why he did that. So, not too much of a fan of that one. Choir Boys. Another quite infamous SpongeBob episode. Ooh, okay, I guess I'll put it in there. I don't really remember it too much. I know it's considered one of the worst episodes just because of how much Squidward gets tortured, and SpongeBob almost knowingly does it this time. Squidward wants to make choir practice, but SpongeBob keeps getting in the way. It keeps on getting there's like this running gag of them clearing their throats, which gets annoying, and there's like bunch of uncanny stuff in this. I don't know. It's okay, I guess. I don't really remember it very well. Don't really care enough to remember Choir Boys, so yeah, there's that. I'll just I'll leave it at that. No hat for Pat. I'll put it in great. So, plot of this episode is that Patrick becomes a mascot for the Krusty Krab, well, an attraction for the Krusty Krab, the Falling Fool, because every time he wears a Krusty Krab hat, he ends up falling over. So, they pretty much turned Patrick falling over into a circus act, but they make it clear that Patrick keeps getting injured by it, and SpongeBob ends up worried for him, and he's helping Patrick. He's trying to help Patrick like get out of the situation. Like this is one of those episodes where Mr. Krabs' greed definitely gets the better of him. But SpongeBob is a good friend to Patrick, so can't really complain too much about it. Still a pretty entertaining episode for that. Like, you root for Patrick and SpongeBob, you root against Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs gets his comeuppance because he gets all of his money stolen back. And so, all's fair on this one. It's a good episode. Shell shocked. But this one also was great. My favorite thing about this episode is the commercial for the Angry Jack shell shop. SpongeBob basically the plot is SpongeBob breaks Gary's shell. Or actually no, I think Gary's shell broke on its own, but SpongeBob keeps breaking the replacements. So they have to buy a new shell for Gary. SpongeBob keeps breaking them. Actually, there's two gags I remember that I really like in this episode. So, One is the Angry Jack commercial, where it's like, I'm so angry, but come buy all this shells because I'm so angry. He's seething with rage. It's over the top and funny sounding, and there's like one moment where it's like, don't bring your kids. Don't bring your kids. That's definitely the funniest part of that commercial. The other gag I really like is when SpongeBob ends up toppling the shelves of shells over, and the shelves in the shop fall over like dominoes, and they all spell out "oops" at one point. It's actually pretty funny. So yeah, this episode has some good gags to it. I like Angry Jack as a character. I love how like his actual persona is that he's a really nice guy, but his patience quickly wears thin with SpongeBob because SpongeBob keeps messing everything up. And I do like the resolution, how Mr. Krabs actually loaned Gary his own shell, kind of like in Shell of a Man. Like he pretty much like Gary's creeped out by the shell, but Mr. Krabs gives him the shell anyway. And he's a good sport about it. He's like, SpongeBob, I'm so cold, can I get a blanket? Because he's obviously naked now. But he gives the shell up without argument otherwise. It's actually a pretty good deal. And all SpongeBob had to do was not get paid at the Krusty Krab for a while. I think that's how it was. It was kind of about like working more hours at the Krusty Krab and not getting paid, which of course SpongeBob's gonna take. So yeah, I actually liked Shell Shocked. It was pretty good. Maybe I'll put it in. I don't know. I might put it in this later, but we'll see. Boating Buddies. Another infamous episode. I guess I'll put it in there. I mean, SpongeBob is pretty creepy. SpongeBob gets pretty creepy in some moments here. There's definitely one moment where he's staring right at Squidward, and Squidward is understandably creeped out. But I don't think this episode is like terrible. There are some. I think my favorite thing about it is the boating. Is the sequence where they're all like riding in the boat, like SpongeBob's at the wheel again, and Squidward and Mrs. Puff are there with him. That gets pretty crazy. And I do like the gag of the one student recording what Squidward said is like, "Wait, SpongeBob, I need your help. I lost my pencil. I gotta take the test." "But Squidward, you just said that you don't need my help anymore." "I never said that." And then the student like plays the tape recorder and is like, "I don't need your help. I don't need you, jerk." And he just shrugs. So that's a good moment. I guess I'll put it in good, but it's on the lower side of good. Because I don't like the creepy moments of SpongeBob. SpongeBob acting creepy towards Squidward. Anyway, Chum Bucket Supreme. Let's see. Chum is fun. Chum is fun, and this episode's pretty fun. I'll put it here. How do I already forget? I somehow forget how this episode goes, and I do remember liking it. Oh, I remember how it goes. Yeah, so, like, I just watched this episode, and I'm somehow having trouble remembering it. Even though I put it in great. So yeah, Plankton pretty much gets, Patrick to make up slogans for the Chum Bucket, and they actually start attracting customers. Even though the food is still terrible, they're eating at the Chum Bucket anyway because they just love the slogan that much. Chum is fun. And then Plankton causes his own downfall later when he has like a mic on and he talks about how terrible all the customers are. And then you got like hockey players who, of course, they have like the whole A thing because they made like they're made out to be stereotypical hockey players. It's like, oh, so you think we're all weak, eh? Or something like that. But there's another episode with Plankton in it, and I've already mentioned that Plankton is probably my favorite character right now, so I can't help but put it in great, even if I'm having trouble remembering it already. Grooming Gary. I'll put this one in great as well. This one's basically about SpongeBob entering Gary at a pet show, and Gary wants no part of it. I think it's a snail pet show too. It's themed around snails, but it's still a pet show. Like, the owners are more into the pet show than the pets are. There is 2 gags I remember where SpongeBob's describing Gary and we get close-ups of Gary, and it's actually pretty funny. He's like, oh, these beautiful eye stalks, and there's like hair all over his eye stalks. But the gag I think is even better than that is when Gary's like, he's starting to he gets up on the podium on stage at the pet show, and he's basically speaking in his language to the other snails that's like, we don't need to be a part of this. We can rebel. These pet shows are disgusting. We will retaliate. We will be the masters of our owners, not our owners. Not that our owners will be masters to us. We will be their masters, or something like that. He's basically just trying to take over. And there's a sign that reads Pet Show, and it burns away, and it says Pet Riot. That's a really funny gag. So I did end up really enjoying this episode quite a bit too. It's really nice. Petty Foolish. I'll put this one in good. This one's basically about Mr. Krabs going crazy over a penny that SpongeBob finds, so he tries to snatch the penny from SpongeBob. And SpongeBob says, oh, I didn't get the penny, I got this wad of gum or whatever. And then, after Mr. Krabs leaves, the episode ends with him digging up SpongeBob's yard looking for that penny because he thinks that SpongeBob tricked him. He really wants to get a penny. And SpongeBob's like, wait a minute, this isn't a wad of gum, this is a $300 bill. Oh, this is useless. Actually, I do remember another gag that I enjoyed this episode. Mr. Krabs is rambling about the penny. It's oh. It's a gag with Mr. Krabs just rambling about how he's obsessed with the penny. And then it cuts over to another family who's driving beside him. He's rambling about the penny while he's driving. And then it cuts to a family who's driving beside him. It's Mommy, what's that guy talking about? And you can hear Mr. Krabs making all the dolphin noises from Sailor Mouth. I can't do it. But it is really funny. I did definitely enjoy that quite a bit. That's a good gag. Petty Foolish was actually pretty good. And it's actually kind of funny watching Mr. Krabs just be super obsessed and crazy over a penny. Grandpappy the Pirate. I'll put it in good. I do even though I don't remember this episode very well, I do remember liking it. It's basically the Krusty crew turning the Krusty Krab into a pirate ship so that Mr. Krabs can impress his grandpappy. And of course, by the end, it doesn't really work out. But I do like how they turned the Krusty Krab into a pirate ship. Because his grandpappy really wanted Mr. Krabs to be a pirate. So he's like, no, I'm not a pirate, I'm not a pirate, I'm a businessman now or whatever, but I gotta be a pirate so I can impress my grandpappy. So, it's still good, even if I don't remember a lot of things about it. It's still a good episode. And I like Mr. Krabs' Grandpappy as a character. I think he is actually pretty cool. The Krabby Chronicle. I'll put this one in this. I actually do really like it. I like that title card too. That's a good title card. So, I apologize about not really speaking too much about the majority of these episodes. As I said, a lot of these are going purely off of an 8-month-long hazy memory. When I do season 7, it should be more fresh on the mind because I do plan on watching more. I do plan on watching SpongeBob more consistently now because I have been enjoying SpongeBob again. And I have been enjoying season 7 so far, so season 7 should definitely not take nearly as long to get uploaded as season 6. Or not to get uploaded, to get recorded as season 6 did. I mean, I feel like this season is going to take a while to upload because this is probably going to be a really long video. So, it'll be easy enough to edit, but to actually upload it will take a while. I hate uploading stuff because uploading stuff takes forever for me now. I really have no idea why. But anyway, I really like the Krabby Chronicle, one of my favorite episodes of the season because it's one of the ones that I find the most memorable. It's basically SpongeBob being a newspaper reporter for Mr. Krabs. He writes a bunch of false stories about the Bikini Bottomites. Mr. Krabs is like, oh, keep writing these fake stories, these fake mean stories, so you can make me more money. And SpongeBob finally has enough of ruining his friends' lives, so he makes up a story. Well, he doesn't exactly make up a story. Like, he gets back at Mr. Krabs by making the wildest story ever that makes Mr. Krabs look like a bad guy, which, yeah, Mr. Krabs really is kind of a bad guy in this episode. This definitely feels like the season where they went full swing with Mr. Krabs being greedy. Well, maybe not full swing, but because there are some episodes like Grandpappy the Pirate where they don't focus on his greed that much. But yeah, this season definitely had a lot of episodes where Mr. Krabs' greed went too far. But I actually kind of like the fake stories that they come up with in this episode for all the different Bikini Bottom people, and I like how SpongeBob gets back at Mr. Krabs. And there is like there's a gag about SpongeBob reporting Patrick's like local resident launches poll. No, let's and Mr. Krabs is like, no, you gotta get spicier with that story. You can have something like local resident Mary's poll. And then at the very end of the episode, you see that you see that Patrick actually did marry the pole. Here you go, guys, can you get me and the wife up a couple of Krabby Patties? That's a nice brick joke there. So yeah, I definitely like the Krabby Chronicle. I don't know how this episode is amongst the SpongeBob community. I guess it's considered a meh one. I guess people might not like it because, again, Mr. Krabs is pretty greedy, but I like it a lot. It's quite fun. Chum Caverns. I wish I could actually remember this episode because I'm pretty sure I remember it actually being really good. Whoops. Had a little mishap there with my mouse. There we go. So basically, in another attempt to get the formula, Plankton ends up he tries to dig his way underground into the Krusty Krab, but he ends up digging into a cave, and he uses the cave as a new location for the Chum Bucket. And the cave actually does look really cool. I'm pretty sure it is actually beautiful. It's like, oh, it's beautiful, and it is actually really cool looking. I do like the Chum Caverns itself. It's pretty cool. But and I think I do remember the ending is about SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs and Plankton all getting stuck even further underground. I think it's the three of them. Maybe Squidward's there too, but it's more likely just Mr. Krabs, SpongeBob, and Plankton. But I definitely do remember the episode, even if I'm having trouble remembering it. Just because I'm having trouble remembering it doesn't mean I didn't like it much. I mean, then again, I barely remember Giant Squidward. I barely remember Giant Squidward, and I ended up putting that in there. But I do remember liking Grip and Gary, even though I don't remember that one too much. But yeah, and Chum Caverns is another one that I liked quite a bit as well. Let's see how long this is going. Ooh boy, we're almost an hour. Oh, not that. Okay. Alright. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a long one. I think we're a little over halfway done with this season. So let's go to Sunbleached. I'll go with good. I do like the design of I like the design of Tan Patrick here. Basically, SpongeBob and Patrick get tanned so they can go into this like tanning party. It's Craig Hamilton's the guy. He's like a seal. He's like a really tan seal guy who's like, oh yeah, y'all can go to. Everyone wants to go to my tanning party, and I like the tanning design for Patrick. But like SpongeBob's tan goes horribly wrong, so he has to like get it so he's becomes sun bleached. And I mean, it's kind of a hard. Actually, this is one thing I remember about these SpongeBob Tier Lists. It's fun to do, but it's also really difficult at the same time because it can be kind of hard to talk about some of these episodes, even if you know them pretty well. But this is definitely one of those episodes I did watch quite a bit back in the day, Sunbleached. So I did like it pretty alright. You'll never catch me tanning though, because I've heard how terrible tanning machines are for you. So I'm never ever going to go in a tanning machine. Most certainly. SpongeBob is not gonna make me do that. Dear Vikings. I guess I'll put that here. I don't remember this episode very much. The only thing I remember is like a joke about the Vikings' names, like this is Olaf, and this is Olaf, and this is Olaf, and this is Olaf. So your name must be, that's right, Gordon. That's kind of the only thing I remember about this episode. I know Squidward and SpongeBob get stuck with Vikings, and SpongeBob wants to learn more about Vikings, but things kind of get complicated. Yeah, I guess I'll probably just put this in there. I don't know, I like the designs for the Vikings, but it's kind of a forgettable episode to be, and it has like a very abrupt ending too. Computer overload. Computer with a K. Mortal Kombat! Shoutouts to Mortal Kombat 1 coming out, by the way. Looking forward to that game. Yeah, I'm putting Computer Overload in great, because it's another Plankton episode, and as always, Plankton is funny, and it's always cool to see him try many different attempts to get the formula. He pretty much tries to get the formula without Karen's help this time, and he quickly proves that that's not really a good idea, because it doesn't work out for him. He basically uses a bunch of machines he built himself to try to get the formula, and it doesn't work. But it is still an entertaining episode just because it's Plankton. I really like Plankton. Gone. I'll put it in good, I suppose. Should it be good or should it be great? Uh, I'll put it in good, I guess. So, this episode is about everybody in Bikini Bottom being gone, except for SpongeBob. SpongeBob's all alone, so he pretty much goes crazy. He pretty much goes crazy from being all alone. He ends up sleeping with a boatmobile. But before all that, he does try to imitate everyone else's lives to try and, make sure their memories stay around. And I actually like that sequence where he's imitating a bunch of different characters. It kind of goes into a different episode much later on. There's an episode of season 10 called Mimic Madness, which I've actually heard is really good, but I've never watched it myself. So I'll be looking forward to that when I eventually get to season 10, but I am still quite a ways away from season 10, of course, still watching season 7. But I guess Gone was a pretty good episode. A lot of good gags, 2 individual gags. Basically, the whole reveal is that it's National No SpongeBob Day, which even Patrick is a part of somehow. It's like everybody needs a break from imitates SpongeBob's laugh. But Gone is a memorable episode, so I'll put it in good. Gullible Pants. So, let's see, I guess I'll put this in. I'll put this one in good. So, SpongeBob is put in charge of the Krusty Krab because Mr. Krabs has to go get his nails fixed because he chipped a nail. He chipped a nail while counting his money. So he has to go get his nails fixed. And SpongeBob is put in charge of the Krusty Krab, so Squidward tricks him by giving a bunch of really bad advice on how to run the Krusty Krab. And that's what makes SpongeBob gullible. Hey, it says gullible on the ceiling. Oh, it really does. Oh, you stole my pants. So, it's still a good episode. Maybe not entirely memorable, but still pretty good. Suction Cup Symphony. I'll put it in great. I do like the gag of, basically Squidward's a conductor Squidward gets a gig as a conductor trying to practice his musical performance, but while he's practicing it, SpongeBob and Patrick are playing doctor. So the episode ends with Squidward's like, I wrote down everything I heard. So basically while he's doing the musical performance, SpongeBob and Patrick are also playing doctor. So it's a nice little payoff on that. Pretty a pretty good episode. I don't really remember too much. Actually, I guess I'll probably put it in good, but it's only episode good because I do remember liking it. Toy Store of Doom. I'll put it in good. Toy Store of Doom. It's basically about SpongeBob and Patrick making it so that they'll stay in a toy store, and they end up getting locked in it. They end up going crazy because they think the toy store is haunted. So there's some cool little visuals, like SpongeBob. The way they make sure that they stay at the toy store past closing time is that they hide in houses. It kind of makes me think of Home Alone 2, how Harry and Marv hide in the houses so that they can rob the place past closing hours. So I actually kind of like that. But other than that, I kind of was thinking, yeah, this is kind of a forgettable episode. Although I do like the... actually, there's another gag I do like about this episode where when the store is closing, there's a dad who's like dragging his child away. He's like, no, Dad, I want that toy. I want to buy that toy. I want to play with it. And he starts running back to the toy, but then his dad like tackles him and drags him away again. So that is actually a good gag there. I think I'll put it up. And I do kind of like the visuals to this episode quite a bit. You know what? I'll put this one up a bit more. I'll put it in. Yeah, I'll definitely put it over Voting Buddies. So at least it didn't have anything that creeped me out like Voting Buddies did. Professor Squidward. I wish I could remember this episode because I do like it. Squidward basically imitates Squilliam so that he can be a professor at a school. I forget what he's a professor at. He's probably in music because he's done like art before and Artist Unknown from season 2. So, and SpongeBob and Patrick are a part of the class. It's SpongeBob and Patrick, not just SpongeBob this time. They're a part of Squidward's class. So there's one. The gag I definitely remember the most about this episode is what the joke I definitely remember the most about this episode is when, like, Patrick goes, Squidward, SpongeBob keeps touching me. Or, actually no, I think it's SpongeBob. It's like, I can't remember who touched who, but it's like, Squidward, he keeps touching me. So Squidward like moves. So Squidward like moves Patrick to the far side of the house. Like they're basically at first they sit next to each other. And they're like, no, he keeps touching me. So Squidward moves Patrick to one corner of the room while SpongeBob's in like the other corner. And then they're like, no wait, he still touched me. And Squidward's like, what? He's got like this really funny look on his face, like, how did he do that? How did he touch him? That's a really funny moment. But yeah, I do remember liking this episode, and this is one of those times where, sorry for the yawning, this is one of those times where Squidward actually gets punished properly for like doing something wrong. He basically does a bad thing by impersonating Squilliam, and everybody's like, no, this isn't Professor Squilliam. Squilliam has a unibrow. So yeah, Squidward actually does get appropriately punished for doing the bad thing. So there's that. And I do like that one gag, the touching joke. I already mentioned I really like that one. Hi, how are ya? Wonderful weather we're having. Do I put this in? Yeah, I suppose I'll put this in. Teaser number 1. Not normal. This is considered one of the best episodes of the season. It's easy to see why. It has a nice little premise of Squidward's like, oh, SpongeBob, you are not normal. You gotta act normal. And SpongeBob starts acting normal, and it's actually pretty creepy, but in a funny way. He's like, how are you? Wonderful weather we're having. And I do like the design of normal SpongeBob. And it does. I like the payoff to the joke where normal SpongeBob is talking to Squidward. It's like, Squidward, you're definitely not normal either. You've got a really big nose and you don't wear pants. So the ending of the episode has, like, basically, the second half of the episode is about SpongeBob and Patrick trying to get SpongeBob back to being not normal, and he can't become they're failing to get him back to not normal. And then normal Squidward comes in and is all like, "Hi, how are you?" And that's what snaps SpongeBob back to not normal. So that's a nice payoff there. But yeah, not normal is a pretty good plot, pretty good story. I like the design. Again, SpongeBob and Patrick's friendship is great on this episode. I like normal Squidward, normal SpongeBob, and all the gags with basically normal when SpongeBob becomes normal, he makes the Krabby Patties into paper somehow. he turns his workplace into a cubicle, pretty much. Is what happens, and it's a pretty good one. It's pretty good. The card. SpongeBob, you can't always expect my usual brand of stupidity. I like to mix it up, keep you on your toes. Yeah, that line kind of implies that Patrick, I almost said Mr. Patrick, it's implied in this episode that Patrick acts stupid on purpose. Which, I don't know why that happens. I guess I'll go with, I guess I'll go with it, man, but it's in the upper man. Like, Patrick is really stupid in this episode, but it is actually, I guess, the lower side of good. Because I do like all the different scenarios that Patrick messes with the card. Like, the card is basically an animated Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy card. It's an incredibly rare card. And SpongeBob pretty much spent all his money trying to get the cards. And then Patrick gets a set of cards, and it turns out to be all 5 rare cards of the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. The animated Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy card. And the whole time SpongeBob thinks he has just the one, when in fact he has all 5 of them. But yeah, I do like the like all the different gags of Patrick messing with the card and SpongeBob's reactions to it. I think that is actually pretty good. Yeah, people give this episode a lot of flack for that line I quoted earlier from Patrick, where it implies that he's being stupid on purpose. And a lot of people hate Patrick in these seasons, like seasons 6 through 8, because he's either really, really stupid or really, really a jerk. And as I already mentioned, I'm about to watch Yours, Mine, and Mine soon, so yeah, I'm not looking forward to that one. But I like the card alright. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but I mean, I can see why people don't like it though. SpongeBob SquarePants versus the Big One. This is another SpongeBob special, and it's meh. Let's see. It's meh. Although I do like the setting of them being on like a deserted, well, not a deserted island, but they're like trapped on an island in the middle of nowhere. SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward, and Sandy and Mr. Krabs. But Sandy and Mr. Krabs are kind of just doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing for like the sake of filler. And I do like this one gag where there's like a gross-up close-up of SpongeBob. It's so out of nowhere that it ends up being funny. It's like, you can be a good surfer if you look like me, and you get like or something like that. I don't know what he said. I don't remember what he said, but then there was like a gross-up close-up of SpongeBob, and it was actually pretty funny just because it came out of nowhere. But this episode also has Johnny Depp as a celebrity cameo, playing I believe his name is Jack Kahuna Laguna. He's supposed to be the surfing master, but somehow SpongeBob becomes a master of surfing. Like Jack is supposed to teach SpongeBob and friends how to surf, and all he really told them was just keep breathing, and yet SpongeBob is able to become a master surfer just because of that advice. There's also something that they teased in the promos leading up to this episode, where Jack was saying to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward was like, "One of you will not return," And yeah, that was a flat out lie because all of them end up surviving. All of them do return back to Bikini Bottom. Even Jack Kahuna Laguna himself, Jack sacrifices himself to the way, but then he comes back, so yeah, the whole episode actually kind of feels a bit pointless when you take into account the whole "one of you will not return" tease. But I do like the setting, and I do like that one joke of the close-up of SpongeBob. Other than that, this episode's kind of a drag. So, Plankton's regular. I'm gonna get a big drink of water after this. Plankton's regular. Well, I definitely remember this episode. I'll put it in good, I suppose. You'll feel kind of bad for Plankton because basically this entire episode is about Plankton finally getting a regular customer, like a consistent customer. But as it turns out, that customer was, I forget the customer's name. I know they mentioned his name in the episode, but I forget his name right now. I think it might be Pat or Del or is it Ned? I don't remember what his name was. I'll look it up later. But basically, the customer he made a deal with Karen to he was paid a bunch of money because the customer was really poor. I think his name is Ned. I feel like I'm getting his name wrong, but I think I'll call him Ned. If that's the wrong name for him, I apologize. But Ned is basically really poor, so Karen gave him a bunch of money in exchange for acting like he enjoys Plankton's food, when in reality he very much does not like Plankton's food. Plankton's food is so poisonous to him that he has to get his stomach pumped multiple times. So that's basically the twist, is that he never enjoyed Plankton's food in the first place, and only made a deal with Karen to make it look like he did enjoy Plankton's food. And you kind of feel sorry for Plankton in this episode, really. Again, Plankton's considered my favorite character, so I kind of feel bad that he was kind of like, wait, so he never enjoyed my food at all? And he starts crying, and everybody's laughing at him. Well, Patrick and, Mr. Krabs is laughing at him, at least. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs are trapped by Plankton at the end, and SpongeBob's like, Mr. Krabs, should we get out of here? And Mr. Krabs like, what? And miss this? And he's just watching Plankton cry over what happened with his customer, what happened with Ned, or is that his name? I really don't know. I somehow can't remember his name. I've seen this episode a couple of times, not just the last time I watched it. I've seen it probably at least maybe 3 or 4 times. But I don't remember his name. It's really odd. But see, I feel bad for Plankton, but it is still a memorable plot anyway, even if I can't remember the customer's name or a lot of the gags. Oh, there is foreshadowing of Ned not liking the chumsticks. Chumsticks is what Plankton keeps feeding Ned, and Mr. Krabs tries to get him to eat the Krusty Krabs, have a delicious Krabby Patty, and then he eats a Krabby Patty, and he's like, oh, that is the second worst thing I've ever tasted. No, it's a Krabby Patty with chum on it, I think is what it said. I think it was a chum patty or something. It was a Krabby Patty dipped in chum, and Ned hated that. So it's that's the second worst thing I've ever tasted, so that foreshadows that the chumsticks are in fact the worst thing he ever tasted, and that he has to get his stomach pumped for it. Porous pockets. I'll put it here, I guess. Or here. So this episode is basically about SpongeBob and Patrick finding a rare pearl that they sell off to get a bunch of money, and SpongeBob becomes really rich, but he ends up spending all the money. SpongeBob gets really rich, but he spends all the money super fast. So he's like, oh no, I'm broke. I don't really remember this episode too much, but I think I remember liking it okay. It's basically about SpongeBob getting rich and spending too much money. No nose. Patrick gets a nose, everybody hates the nose because Patrick becomes a joke with the nose, so they try to get rid of his nose. And then at the end, Patrick gets a set of ears to replace his new nose that was lost. I heard that. So I guess I'll put that here. I'll put it, yeah. No nose. So yeah, it's all about Patrick not having a nose, but then he gets a new nose. And he becomes a joke with the new nose, so they get rid of the nose, then he gets a set of ears. I don't remember a lot of gags with it. Again, Season 6 is... Not all of Season 6 is fresh on the mind, so can't really remember a lot of it. But, that's still an okay episode. Slide Whistle Stooges. It's basically SpongeBob and Patrick annoying Squidward with slide whistles. Squidward gets annoyed, but then he actually starts to enjoy the slide whistles. And then he starts annoying the Bikini Bottomites. There's apparently there's like a quote in this episode where like Squidward replaces a baby in a baby carriage because he's antagonizing a woman. He's like sitting in the baby carriage, he replaces the baby, he's using the slide whistle, and all like the... Okay, never mind. It's basically leads up to a quote that's horrible taken out of context. I won't say it, but y'all who've seen the episode probably know what that quote is. So it all leads up to Squidward running away from like an angry mob because they are all annoyed by his constant slide whistling. And then Squidward goes over a cliff in a gasoline truck, so of course he blows up. It's not like in the one joke in some of those jokes in the early SpongeBob episodes, like jellyfishing or My Pretty Seahorse, when he like falls off a cliff from like a bicycle accident and then he just randomly blows up. That's really funny because it's unexpected. Of course he's gonna blow up in Slide Whistle Stooges because he goes over a cliff in a gasoline truck. So that was expected. So yeah, that's not a very good spin on that gag. I guess I do like some of the things that they do with the slide whistles, but I don't know. I don't really remember this episode too much. I'll put it here, I guess. Cephalopod Lodge. Squidward gets kicked out of a club thanks to SpongeBob and Patrick. SpongeBob and Patrick try to get him back in the club. It's a top secret club with cephalopods. But once they get him back in the club, they ruin it again. And now they have to get Squidward in an initiation or something. Like they make their own club for Squidward, and Squidward has to get through initiations for the club. And basically it's another Squidward torture episode. It's meh. It's forgettable. I don't really remember too much about it. I'll put Slide Whistle Stooges in there too. Yeah, Cephalopod Lodge and Slide Whistle Stooges, they're kind of forgettable. Not as funny as they could be. Shuffleboarding. So I think I'll put this episode in good just because of Man Ray being there. I really like Man Ray. I'll take any excuse to see Man Ray again. Spongebob and Patrick disguise themselves as Rubber Band and Barnacle Boy into a shuffleboarding tournament. But this episode's title is really misleading because it really doesn't focus on the shuffleboarding at all. Like, Spongebob and Patrick already win the tournament off screen. They win the shuffleboarding tournament. And Rubber Band and Barnacle Boys place off screen. And Rubber Band and Barnacle Boy can't participate because they got injured thanks to SpongeBob and Patrick. So instead, SpongeBob and Patrick impersonate Rubber Band and Barnacle Boy, and they arrest citizens for like the most trivial things. It's like, you're chewing too loud, your shoe's untied, oh, we're locking you up. Roasting a Krabby Patty? Oh, that's worthy of prison. It's kind of stupid. But I do really like the sequence with Man Ray. I always really like Man Ray. Man Ray's one of my favorite side characters. Kind of wish he'd show up a lot more. I think if it wasn't for Man Ray, I'd probably put this episode in there, but it's in good. Overbooked. So, this episode is about SpongeBob becoming overbooked. He puts too much on his schedule. He tries to please all of his friends at once because they all got things going on at the same time. SpongeBob tries to be there for all three of them. He tries to be there for Mr. Krabs and Patrick and Sandy, and it doesn't exactly work out. But it is actually kind of cool and nice to see SpongeBob trying to be there for all of his friends at once, even though it's definitely taken a toll on him. And I do like how, like, he's trying to be there for Patrick's birthday, he's trying to be there for Mr. Krabs so that he can help Mr. Krabs build a telescope, and he's trying to be there for Sandy so that he can be an assistant for Sandy in her, like, science presentation. And I do like how understanding all three of them are of SpongeBob when he finally confesses that, oh, I wanted to be there for all three of you guys, but I couldn't, or whatever. They're all like, oh man, you should have said something. So I like how understanding they all are of SpongeBob's predicament when they're finally like, you got some explaining to do, buddy. So it's like one of those rare times where they're actually well, not rare times, but times in like these episodes where they are understanding of SpongeBob and they try to help him out. Like when SpongeBob's trying to like help them out in return and everything. So that's nice. So I do like it a lot for the whole friendship thing between SpongeBob and all his friends. Yeah, Overbook's a pretty good episode. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we start Living Like Larry. Yeah. A life in a day. I really do like this episode a lot. It's a lot of fun. This is probably one of my favorite appearances of Larry. This is my favorite appearance of Larry since SpongeGuard on Duty in season 3. It's and it has like such a memorable catchphrase with the whole "Living Like Larry" thing. So yeah. It's a lot of fun. I like all the different crazy, dangerous stunts that SpongeBob and Patrick get a part in. I like the stunt that Larry does at the beginning, and I like that Larry's the kind of guy who's like, oh, I'm so proud of these guys. They know how to live. And it's like, wait a minute, they're gonna get ripped to shreds. I gotta save them. Look, guys, my advice wasn't meant to be taken literally. He gave them advice that was basically living like Larry. Living each day as though it was their last. By living like Larry. And he said, and basically his thing was, my advice wasn't meant to be taken literally. I'm meant to live life to the fullest, not to maim yourselves. So, I really do like Larry in this episode. He's a lot of fun. Actually, I should mention something. In Pet or Pest, Larry was actually in that episode as well. But for some reason, he didn't know who SpongeBob was. And I really don't know why. I don't know why that was the case. That's definitely something that's definitely a moment that kind of spits in the face of SpongeBob continuity. That's meh on that, but I definitely love A Life in a Day. A Life in a Day is a really fun episode. One of my favorites from the season. Excuse me. Nautical Novice. Nah. Nautical Novice is all about SpongeBob. He goes on a field trip. He goes on a boating school field trip. He kind of steals Mrs. Puff's thunder, being the guy that reads up on everything about the field trip. So he's the one that kind of takes Mrs. Puff's place as the teacher there. Miss Puff gets all jealous. But then there's like an accident with the boat. It's like a boating museum that takes place on a boat, but the boat goes out of control. So SpongeBob takes everything he learned from the book he read before to actually like steer the boat away from Bikini Bottom, the big giant boat away from Bikini Bottom, so that nothing will get destroyed. And it's like, oh, that was amazing. Here's your license, SpongeBob. Like, SpongeBob finally gets his license. But then, as it turns out, there was just a tiny little fish pulling that giant boat, and he was a tiny fish in a much smaller boat pulling that giant boat away from safety. And there was literally no scene. There was like no foreshadowing of him being there at all. Well, almost no foreshadowing, but it's such a tease. This is like one of the biggest teases in all of SpongeBob, where it's like, yeah, SpongeBob finally get his license. Oh wait, nope. Yeah. And besides that, I don't really remember too much about the episode, and it's just such a tease. It's such a tease of SpongeBob just not getting his license there. I kind of feel bad for him there, because he felt like he definitely deserved that, and that just came off as just kind of ridiculous. How's Fancy? Okay, so I might put this in great. I would have put this in great, except I'm gonna put it in meh, and it's only because of that toenail scene. I hate the toenail scene. I really do not like that scene at all. It's one of my least favorite scenes in the entire series. It's hard to watch, it's hard to listen to. Like, even without the video and hearing all the audio, it's still terrible. Like, it's such a painful looking and painful sounding scene. Squidward pretty much getting his toenail ripped off by his couch, thanks to SpongeBob. It's just not good at all. I really don't like it. I've never liked it. I've never liked that moment. And it's a shame, because the rest of the episode is actually pretty good. I like the rest of the episode. It's basically all about Squidward trying to make sure his house looks fancy, because he wants to be a part of a fancy house show that he watches. And he wants to show Squilliam up because he's so jealous of Squilliam's really fancy house. And I actually like Squilliam's house. I think there's a lot of cool visual stuff with Squilliam's house at the beginning. They show off Squilliam's house at the beginning, and it's actually kind of cool. So Squidward's trying to one-up Squilliam here. That's SpongeBob's trying to help, because he was spying on Squidward. There's a gag with Patrick using the bathroom, and he's like, I won't go in there for a couple days. And the toilet comes out crying, please, have mercy. But, yeah, I put this episode in great because I do actually really enjoy this episode, except for that toenail scene. If it wasn't for that toenail scene, it would definitely not be in meh. But I hate that toenail scene so much, so I gotta put it in meh. Ugh. I mean, I'd put it in Barnacles, but the rest of the episode is just so good without the toenail scene. Well, it's not so good, but, like, really, I don't think, with the exception of maybe the top episodes on this, I don't think most of these episodes are as good as, like, the best episodes from season 2 and 3, you know? I mean, I definitely like A Life in a Day and Krabby Road. Those are my definite favorites of the season. Actually, there's at least one other one that's pretty cool. Well, we're almost done here. 2 episodes left, and we are up to... What's the recording? Ooh, an hour and a half. I saw... This season might be... This season might be just as long for me to talk about as Season 5. We'll have to see. I saw that Season 5 was like an hour and 40 minutes. Ooh. So we'll see if this season ends up being longer to talk about than Season 5. Ditchin'! I'll put it in good. I actually had to watch this episode a second time because the first time I watched it, I watched it. This was like an episode I watched 8 months ago, so it definitely wasn't fresh on the mind. So I was like, I have to watch this again just to remember what it was because I couldn't remember at all what it was about. And it's about SpongeBob ditching boating school so that he can get a book signing from Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. Is it a book signing? I think it is. It is a book signing. Yeah. Got a book signing from Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. And he tries to get back to boating school, but he keeps getting distracted. It's like a different version of procrastination from Season 2, really. And it is actually fairly entertaining, even though I couldn't remember at all what it was about. I think it was just because it's an episode I hadn't seen very often. So I couldn't exactly remember what it was about, but I do remember now. And the episode ends with Mrs. Puff getting arrested. I actually don't remember why she got arrested. I think it was because she was also ditching, but what for, I don't know. And Mrs. Puff and SpongeBob, as Mrs. Puff's being driven away by the police, SpongeBob's like, "Don't you worry, Mrs. Puff, I will never ditch again." And Mrs. Puff's like, "Oh, that's a good Oh, you're such a good boy, SpongeBob." It's like, "Again? What do you mean again?" So, it's a nice little gag there. It is basically another version of procrastination, and it does have some entertaining moments to it. So, ditching's good. Alright. Last episode, Sandcastles in the Sand, one of the more popular episodes from the season. And it is easy to see why. It is actually pretty entertaining. Sandcastles in the Sand is basically about SpongeBob and Patrick having a sandcastle war. They get a little overexcited on the beach, their imagination gets the better of them, they wreck the beach, but they have a lot of fun having a little sandcastle with each other. It is actually pretty fun to see the different things that they do with sandcastles. There's a lot of great designs for the sandcastles that they do, all the different weapons they have going to war with each other. There's a really great line from Patrick, like SpongeBob sends a sand army to attack Patrick's sandcastle, and Patrick's like, "Oh," he's all scared, he's running away. And then SpongeBob's sand army gets inside Patrick's sandcastle, and Patrick has a cannon ready. He's like, "Oh, hello, and goodbye." That's a really good line. "Oh, hello, and goodbye." So yeah, Sandcastles in the Sand. It is easy to see why it's a good episode. It kind of has a slow start to me, a little bit, but once they actually do get to the sandcastle part, that's definitely when the episode picks up and it becomes a lot of fun. Whew, yeah, alright, so that was Season 6. Quite a lot of meh episodes, and there's 2 Barnacles episodes this time instead of 1, so this might end up being the least favorite season so far, but then again, it might be my own fault, because like I said, I watched 3/4 of this season 8 months ago, so a lot of it was not fresh on my mind. I only watched the last quarter of the season yesterday, so those were fresh on the mind. But next time, when I do Season 7, it should definitely be a lot better for me. It'll definitely have a lot of... I should have more to say. But I've always said that even though SpongeBob is fun to talk about, it's also difficult to talk about. But to be fair, even with the 2 Barnacles episodes and quite a number of meh episodes, there is still a lot of really good episodes. I definitely like Krabby Road and Life in a Day. They were my definite favorites. Single Cell Anniversary was pretty good too. Like all the episodes in these are number one are really good, and I do also really like the great ones too, even if I don't remember some of them very well. Actually, I'll put Overbooked maybe a little bit higher. I'll put it here. Alright, so that is that for SpongeBob Season 6. Thank y'all for watching, get ready for more SpongeBob tier lists coming up. Yep, the SpongeBob tier lists are coming back. I will be working on Season 7, as I mentioned before. I am already watching Season 7, so I'll be working on that one, watching the rest of it, working on the tier list for that. Hopefully this particular tier list won't take too long to upload, but we'll see. It'll be easy to edit, be hard to upload. But everybody have a good day, take it easy, stay safe. And see all you SpongeBob fanatics next time. Bye bye!